Right, it is the second day of November 2022. A very good morning to you and yours from wherever you are watching us from. And by the way, happy new month. And welcome to Morning Cafe. Welcome aboard. My name is Stanley Nyarungita, holding it down for Linda Alela this Wednesday morning. And definitely quite a lot to look at. And as the norm for Morning Cafe, we'll definitely be taking a look at the dailies and also later on whole Tasty Wednesdays. And also as we look at the dailies, also we'll be interacting with the panelists. I'll be telling you who they are later on, so you can always talk to us on our social media platforms at TV47KE, that is on Facebook and Twitter, and also number 2047, our SMS number. Send in your questions and feedback, just to tell you who to expect this particular morning. Honorable Isaac Mwaura, former nominated senator, also Honorable Titus Lotte, Member of Parliament for Kacheliba, also the former Deputy Governor, West Pokot, and Honorable Duncan Maina, Nyeri Town, Member of Parliament, and Honorable James Gakuya, Embakasi North, Member of Parliament. Legislators in the building to just deep dive into the current affairs in this particular country, talking about Ruto's radical tax reforms and also the drought situation and quite much more. Let's start in matters dailies, basically. The Standard front page, if you can have the Standard on your screens right now, says Kinoti left exposed in shakeup, and basically the ground beneath former DCI boss George Kinoti is shifting fast. A section of the men he commanded are in custody as investigations into their operations gathers pace. Yesterday, his successor Mohamed Amin dispersed the last of his allies, including the officer who admitted framing Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua at his behest to further. This story is extensive on page 4, and we'll definitely be diving into that with the panelists. There you have it on your screens right there. Kinoti left. This is basically the former DCI boss George Kinoti left exposed in a shakeup, and also at basically the top, lawmakers begin big fight to rescue the CDF. Also, dollar shortage risks foreign investment. Also, KQ pay standoff escalates. Also matters sports, World Cup stars to watch, and quite also just to the right side of the Standard, shocking details on Mama Lucy Hospital, extensive on page 10. This does also reflect on Daily Nation. Remember, the past 2 days, the Senate hearing on the Health Committee has been, listening and hearing some of these cases, both in Mama Lucy Hospital and in Mama Ngina Hospital, and also death of Dida, one of Africa's largest jumbos. Just to cross over, remember, we'll be, diving into this particular matters. But then for this, the big story on the Standard, page 4. Let's cross over there quickly. Page 4 on the Standard says mean farms up grip on DCI as Kinoti men suffer in shuffle. Mr. Director, if you can have that on the screens right now. The organization announced yesterday has seen serious crimes unit boss move to Turkana, and also fate of Gisheru, head of operations, still unknown. There you do have it. Basically, the former, right now, the DCI boss who is right now Mohamed Amin, who has a firm grip on DCI, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, as Kinoti men suffer in shuffle. Just 1 day after Director of Public Prosecutions Nuruddin Haji made damning revelations about the workings of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. A purge in former DCI boss George Kinoti's perceived lawless took place. And on the left side, businessman loses claim to public car park in Buruburu, right? And on page 5, Parliament appoints new clerk to replace Yalai. This basically happened yesterday. Members of the Parliament yesterday approved the appointment of National Assembly clerk Samuel Njoroge for a 5-year term. In a vote beating President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza Alliance and Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja One Kenya, MPs voted 162 out of 94 in favor of a motion recommending Njoroge's appointment by the Parliamentary pardon me, Parliamentary Service Commission, that is PSC, right? And basically looking at page 10, basically the whole aura in hospitals. As I was telling you, Mama Lucy Hospital and also Mama Ngina, this is what the Senate Health Committee was looking at for the past 2 days. Says senators pledge to act on shocking tales of Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital. Senators received complaints by relatives of a mother who died after delivering twins. Nairobi Senator, that is Edwin Sifuna, says it was wrong for staff to be abusive and disrespectful to patients. Just to a brief on that, the Senate Health Committee will make recommendations on whether Mama Lucy Hospital will be allowed to continue operating or not, following a public outcry. Right, definitely quite a big story on that matters whole hospital. And we'll also be taking a look at President William Ruto's health reforms. And speaking of which, President William Ruto's, reforms and all that, his pledges and all that on Daily Nation, big story right there. Taking a look and taking stock of President William Ruto's days in office so far. Today marks the 51st day of William Samoei Ruto. So it says there 50 days of Ruto's regime. So if we can have that on the screens. Today marks the 51st day of the William Ruto era, and amidst the optimism of a new regime and the pregnant promise of a reorganized government lies the hopes and fears of millions of Kenyans caught in the whirlpool of tough economic times. How he navigates the oil crisis, the taxation headache, and that eight capture probe will plot the trajectory of his first 100 days in office. So basically, he has 49 more days in office to actually, summarize the whole 100 days in office. But then what has he achieved what has he achieved so far in the 51 days so far? And what are we expecting? The countdown of the 49 days so far. Extensive on page 4, 5, 8, and 9. Just to quickly go about that for page 4, if we can have that on page 4. Criticism calls for patience as Ruto's state capture probe deadline lapses. Remember, this is one particular element that he had talked about, forming a state capture commission to look at that. But then again brings up the whole, the ruling Kenya Kwanza had promised to form a commission to investigate state capture within 30 days of Ruto's swearing in, as it accused a few individuals and families of benefiting at the expense of millions. So the big question right now is the whole commission and the forming of it. Is it in the works or is it a forgotten deal? We'll be taking a look at the legislators in basically the panelists with us. So basically it says, well, the head of state's allies say he has been hard at work dismantling state capture cartels. Critics say all they see is a lack of willingness to tackle corruption. So Senator Geoffrey Osotsi, just a quote from this particular article, says, it is very clear that the much talked about plan by Kenya Kwanza was a ploy. Clearly, they have no coherent plan to deal with the country's problems, right? And just also page 5, and at a glance, the hits and misses so far. So during the campaign period, the president and his allies made many promises. Those that the new administration has so far met include swearing in of judges rejected by his predecessor, that is Uhuru Kenyatta, reverting port operations to Mombasa, and forming a task force to review the country's education system. But the president has failed on his promise to form a state capture commission and to bring down the prices of food and fuel. That is on page 5 of the Daily Nation. Remember also the whole bringing down the prices of food. Recently, he was quoted saying that give him a year so that he can actually bring down the price of unga. And also on speaking of matters fuel, page 9 of the Daily Nation. Remember, it is the whole extensive on Ruto's hits and misses, 51 days in office. Why Ruto is on the horns of a dilemma of the cost of fuel. The bottom of it says, emerging energy nightmare is likely to be the biggest headache of President William Ruto's presidency. So next month, OPEC Plus, this is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries Plus, OPEC Plus, will increase the pain at the pump after agreeing to cut global production. So basically, where does this leave the ordinary mwananchi? Basically, it says in the campaign trail, President William Ruto had promised to lower fuel prices, but once in office, he found that subsidies to shield consumers from high global prices were unsustainable and that Kenya was caught in a worldwide oil crisis. Oil-producing nations so worried about the dropping prices due to weak demand, especially from China, the world's largest crude oil importer. China has continued with its strict COVID-19 curbs, which has disrupted its fuel demand. And back to page 8, the whole National Security Fund, Social Security Fund, basically, where yesterday the KOTU, boss Francis Atwoli, said that the current NSSF reduction rate is inadequate and the lowest in Africa. So basically, the president is also pushing for workers earning over 100,000 Kenyan shillings a month to give 1.7% of the salaries to NHIF. So basically now on page 8, President William Ruto's push for employees to contribute 6% of their salaries up to 200 bob in retirement savings got a major boost yesterday after the Workers' Union endorsed the proposal. KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli said that the current NSSF fund reduction rate is inadequate and that is the lowest in Africa. So Ruto is also pushing for workers earning more than 100,000 a month to pay 1.7%. And just to take you also through some of these quite important numbers, even as we get into news-making headlines, this could see those earning up to 100,000 pay 1,700 Kenyan shillings a month, 2,250,000 for those earning up to 150,000 Kenyan shillings, and 3,400 shillings for those earning 200,000, and so on and so on. Basically, those at the dailies for you this particular morning. We'll be diving into that with the panelists this particular hour. And so let us take a look at what is making headlines this particular hour. So the first story, where are they? More families of missing persons have come out calling on the government to explain of the whereabouts of their kins. Speaking after attending prayers that brought together 26 families of missing persons from the coastal towns, they allege that police officers were involved in the mysterious disappearance of their loved ones, with some of the cases dating back to the year 2021. Take a look.
The prayers brought together 26 families whose loved ones went missing, as the affected persons issued a 14 days ultimatum to the government to produce their kins, where they alleged police officers were involved in the mysterious disappearance of their loved ones. Karemi is among those who attended the event. According to Karemi, her husband was last seen on the 14th of August last year after he was forcefully ejected from a car he was driving in. Karemi adds that efforts to find her husband have proven futile, getting little help from all offices she has gone to in search of help to locate her husband.
Tumezunguka kila mahali. Tumeenda toko kwa DStv Nairobi kutusaidia. Tumeandika barua hata huko kwa EPOA, DPP, hata sasa tuna inquiry in the court, ilikuwa postponed next 15th.
Ali narrates that on the fateful evening, a group of unknown men dressed in police regalia stormed into their house and roughed them up before taking her husband away, and that was the last time she saw her husband. A tearful Ali also recounts the painful ordeal that they experienced in the hands of the strangers who manhandled them before their children.
Wakatupiga picha, wakachukua ID yangu na ya mzee, alafu ID yangu wakaniregeshea ya mzee wakaenda nayo, wakaniambia kaa na watoto vizuri. Na watoto wasoma mimi na sina wakunisaidia, sina msaada na mtu yoyote.
Another family who 6 of their kin were taken away in what was only 4 to make their way back home are pleading with the government to produce their loved ones. The family alleged that the 6 were picked up to be interrogated over the death of a chief, but 2 of them never made it back.
Kulitokezea tukio sehemu za Lamu ya chifu kuuliwa. Sasa waliulizwa kama wanajua habari hiyo ama ni vipi. Hiyo ilikuwa ndo sababu wao kushikiliwa.
The families have given the government 14 days to explain the whereabouts of their loved ones, who they allege police had a hand in their disappearance. On Monday, the court allowed the detainment of 6 officers of the defunct Special Service Unit of the DCI. The unit is alleged to be involved in the mysterious disappearance of 2 Indian foreigners who are said to have been part of President William Ruto digital team in the run-up to the 2022 general polls. Mwege William, TV 47.
William for that. Now to something else. 10 months after the River Nziu tragedy that claimed over 30 lives, locals still stare at the possibility of yet another tragedy as the bridge is yet to be repaired. The residents now calling on the county and national government to intervene to ensure its construction is completed as soon as possible. Andrin Clemi reports.
Residents of Nguni and new areas of Mwingi East sub-county in Kitui County are still glaring at the possibility of yet another tragedy posed by the killer River Nziu that has been causing numerous deaths during rainy seasons.
Daraja kukinyesha manake ni ile ya kupitia chini, inakuwa watu kufuka na miguu inakuwa vigumu, hata kufuka na gari inakuwa ngumu na inakuwa ni hatari hata kwa wanyama hata kwa binadamu.
The Nziu River hit headlines in December last year after a bus ferrying choir members to a wedding ceremony in New Catholic Church plunged into the swollen river, claiming over 30 lives. According to residents, despite the government's commitment to offer over 500 million shillings towards construction of the bridge, too little has been done.
Huyu contractor aongeze speed, hii bridge imalizwe na wafanye zile mambo zinafaa kufanyika. Sababu wakati mvua inaanza, inafaa pale tuwekewe kitu ya kufunga na side ile ikuwe ya kufunga ndio magari zikuwe controllable. Ndio this season watu wasikufe.
Workers at the Nziu Bridge construction site have blamed the contractor for delaying their payments, saying it is for this reason that the completion of the bridge could even take longer.
But mshahara ndio iko na shida. Pesa inachelewa, tunasomesha, tunalea, lakini hiyo pesa haitufikii muda. Tunafanya mwezi moja, tunaruka moja, tunalipwa hii nyingine. Tunakawia sana ya maji tukua hatujalipwa.
With the rainy season approaching, residents now call upon the county and national government to intervene to prevent further tragedies. Andrin Kilemi, TV 47.
And from that, Nyeri-Bari-Mansaba MP Daniel Manduku wants the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, or DPP, to drop the 1.4 billion graft case leveled against him on grounds that there is insufficient evidence. Manduku, the former Managing Director of the Kenya Ports Authority, KPA, was charged alongside Juma Chigulu with unlawfully awarding of tenders at KPA. The embattled former Managing Director of the Kenya Ports Authority, KPA, Daniel Manduku, has asked the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, to review the 1.4 billion Kenyan shillings graft case that has been leveled against him. Manduku, who is the current Member of Parliament of Nyeri-Bari-Mansaba, was charged alongside a KPA officer, Juma Chigulu, with irregular procurement and unlawfully awarding of tenders. Manduku's second plea of seeking his passport to be returned was, however, quashed by trial magistrate Francis Wahumira, who stated that the matter was not in the court's jurisdiction. The two allegedly committed the crimes at the KPA headquarters between 29th March and 22nd November. The case will proceed for further hearing on 29th November 2022. Meanwhile, 5 police officers charged with killing a suspect in Changamwe police station have been released on a cash bail of 800,000 Kenyan shillings each.
Available in our office
During the hearing of the application for bail defense, lawyer Danstan Omari told the court that the accused Halif Abdullahi Sigat, James Molikoti, Joseph Odhiambo Sirawa, Edward Kongo Nchonga and Nelson Kanai were arrested in 2019 and no single evidence has been provided to the accused to date.
Upande wa serikali hakuna siku wameleta lalamiko mahakamani kusema kwamba stakabati fulani hizi na zile astahili kutolewa mahakamani kwa sababu zitageuka sheria. Hamuna kabisa.
It is totally a devastating moment when you see that you have just been locked in without the state producing evidence. And we are demanding that let people be arrested after investigations have been completed.
The matter will be mentioned on 15th November for directions as to the hearing. Stanley Nyeringita, TV47, Nairobi. General Justin Muturi was Tuesday morning sworn in as the Commissioner of the Judicial Service Commission, presided over by Chief Justice Martha Koome at the Supreme Court building. The Attorney General, who is the Chief Government Legal Advisor, promised to ensure that the judiciary will have cordial relations with the executive. What awaits the former National Speaker also includes approval of all commercial contracts drawn by ministries, departments and agencies. Chief Justice Martha Koome approvingly received the former Chicago Member of Parliament, believing in his abilities to transform the Commission together.
Morning. Let me take this opportunity to
I, Justin Bidan Joka Muturi, having been appointed under Article 171(2) paragraph E of the Constitution of Kenya as a member of the Judicial Service Commission, do swear that I will at all times obey, respect and uphold the Constitution of Kenya and all other laws of the Republic, that I will faithfully and fully, impartially, and to the best of my knowledge and ability, discharge the trust, perform the functions, and exercise the powers devolving upon me by virtue of this appointment without fear, favor, bias, affection, ill will, or prejudice. So help me God.
I am certain you will be a valuable team player in the Commission, and you will serve as a link between the Commission and the executive branch as we work towards the realization of the constitutional mandate of the Judicial Service Commission. Let me also observe that you are joining JSC shortly after the Commission launched and began implementing our strategic plan 2022-2027.
As a Commission, we have the primary duty of ensuring that our courts and our judges are better enabled to undertake these functions, and that they are also held to account in the performance of their roles. My Lady, the Honorable Chief Justice and Honorable Commissioners, I should thank you for the great work that you've done so far towards the building of the kind of the judiciary that the people of Kenya, through the Constitution, aspire to. Leadership matters. Political loyalty paid off in Parliament for President William Ruto's allies during the first day of the National Assembly elections for committee chairs and the deputies who were elected unopposed. Consensus also prevailed in the committee elections, setting the stage for vetting of the Inspector General of Police nominee Japheth Koome and principal secretaries, among other national matters. Apollo Kamau reports.
As a committee,
President William Ruto's hand in the ongoing National Assembly committee elections was clearly visible in what was a done deal after 10 of the House committee chairs and vice chairs were elected unopposed on a day MPs from Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions close ranks to seal the deal on committee leadership.
Our discussions with our party leader, he was very thorough. And he knows what he wants.
The party leadership also has identified the faces that probably they need We have agreed on that. So it's been give and take and consensus, and it shows the maturity of a democracy.
For the 10 departmental committees, their work is clearly cut out ahead of the much anticipated vetting of principal secretaries in their respective House committees. The Administration and Internal Affairs Committee new chair and Narok West MP Gabriel Tongoyo setting his eyes on the vetting of President William Ruto's Inspector General of Police nominee, Japhet Koome, and insecurity matters in the country.
You know, we have got the issue of the vetting of IG. We are starting right away. Hopefully, also the President will have probably finished with the issue of the PSS, the vetting that is for all other departmental committees.
In the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee, new chair and Belgut MP Nelson Koech and his deputy Mandera North MP Abdullahi Bashir are set to handle the exploitation of Kenyan domestic workers in the Gulf countries and recruitment in the Kenya Defense Forces. The energy sector, chaired by Mola MP Vincent Musyoka, will be cracking its heads on the need to review high electricity costs and fuel prices that continue to push the high cost of living.
The issue of the cost of energy is not by mere production and also the taxes. The issue we are facing with the cost of energy is because we have allowed cartels who produce thermal power, which is extremely expensive, to continue operating in the name of some contracts that were signed long before that we are not able to vacate.
At the Communication, Information and Innovation Committee, new chair John Kerry, the technology and digital revolution will be the committee's entry.
We are trying to constitute a committee that is fit for purpose for a time such as this. You know that we're in an era where ideas are currency. We're in an era where data is currency. We are also coming in at a time when there has been a change of government and a new administration. So we might be called the Committee for Communication, Innovation and Information. However, we are a committee that cuts across all sectors.
Apol Kamau, TV47.
All right, thank you for that, Apollo. Now, as the country continues to grapple with severe drought, with many areas greatly affected, concerns are now emerging over candidates in the areas, even as national exams near. Collins Lusweti takes a look at the drought situation in the country.
Latest figures now show that 4 million Kenyans are facing severe hunger and in dire need of humanitarian assistance, with this number expected to rise if proper mitigation measures are not put in place. In Laikipia County, the situation continues to worsen, with residents unable to find pasture and water for the animals.
Kiangazi iko kubwa sana, kiangazi imeleta hatari. Sisi watu wa Siolo tuko na shida. Kwa hivyo serikali inataka saidia sisi hata maji na nyasi.
In the coastal region, Red Cross is now estimating that 600,000 in the areas of Ganze, Magarini, Kwale, Taita Taveta and Tana River have been greatly affected by severe drought, with 2 million heads of livestock in danger. In Ganze Ward, Kilifi County, education stakeholders are now warning that learning could soon be interrupted in the area due to hunger situation.
Angalia mwanzo huko eneo la Ganze kuwa shule nyingi ziko katika hali ya ukame na inakuwa ni ngumu sana kwa yule mzazi kuweza kusimamia mwalimu wa wazazi aweze kulipa kutoa ile fedha. Kwa hivyo
concerns are now emerging over learners in the hard hit areas, with national examinations around the corner. In Mwea constituency, Red Cross has initiated a food distribution program to students from vulnerable families to keep the pupils in school during the examination period. In Wajir, the county government has entered a partnership with World Food Program targeting 13,000 families with a cash transfer of 6,500 to the most affected.
These hazard maps that will be used to strengthen your disaster risk management and monitoring in the region. And it is very important to be able to track where the needs are the greatest and where resources need to go. So
experts are now warning that food distribution alone will not be enough to address the hunger situation in the country. They are now calling on long-term measure, especially on climate change, even as they continue with food distribution programs. Earlier today, Red Cross received donation of 4 million shillings from the Muslim community in the country and Jamia Mosque to help the affected families across the country.
In this for a long haul, because we know
the situation we are in. Yes, we thank God that we have received some rain here and there, but it is not sustained. So it is not even enough to actually put food on the table for the people that are affected.
With the country facing starvation in many parts, greatly affected with the drought situation in the country, stakeholders are now coming up, rallying for collective efforts to ensure that these affected areas get the much needed help, and especially candidates who are preparing for the national examination so that they can be able to sit for the examinations without any challenges. Collins Lusweti, TV47, Nairobi.
And still on the same matters, Kenya is facing the worst and severe drought in 40 years, with the current drought described as the most severe and longest, with widespread livelihood losses and massive displacement of populations. Currently, 2.7 million people are in the crisis phase and 785,000 people in the emergency state, with more than 40% of the population facing high levels of food insecurity. And as Paul Kirobi reports, President William has appealed to the Kenya Red Cross to partner with the government to save lives. The head of state has also appealed to the Kenya Red Cross Society to incorporate climate change in its scope of activities to help the country tackle the menace that is threatening to become a disaster.
Drought continues to ravage several parts of the country, with millions of Kenyans affected. Residents of 29 counties are in dire need of food aid, with President William Ruto now appealing to the Kenya Red Cross Society to partner with the government to ensure Kenyans in need of food aid are able to access the precious commodity to save lives.
Because the situation is both urgent and the situation is also dire, we have agreed that additionally to the 3.2 billion shillings government already made available, we are making again this morning an additional 2 billion shillings to support this food distribution mechanism. And later in the week, I will be meeting with other...
The head of state announced an additional 2 billion shillings that will address the drought situation, an additional fund to the 3.2 billion shillings issued earlier by the state to address the drought response funding.
It's traditionally conferred to the head of state. Nevertheless, I do not take it for granted, and I want you to know that I am aware of the magnitude of this role and proud to be associated with you. I also commend you for your intention to install all governors as patrons of their respective county Red Cross branches. This will go a long way in strengthening your organizational development by enlarging your regional footprint, thereby enhancing your network of members and volunteers.
The president is expected to meet with other development partners in the course of the week in a move aimed at scaling up early action mechanisms aimed at saving thousands of livestock that may perish due to the biting drought.
Most ASAL counties are facing vegetation deficit, thus limited availability of palatable livestock forage. An estimated 2.5 million livestock deaths have been reported across all species. The national government, as a result, set up a drought emergency team led by my deputy, and they have been in consultation with all the stakeholders.
According to the Arid and Semi-Arid Lands Humanitarian Network, more than 4.2 million people, representing 24% of the ASAL population, are food insecure, with about 2.7 million people in the crisis phase and 785,000 people the emergency state. This is an increase of 10% increase from the same period in 2021, where 2.1 million people categorized in as in emergency and crisis state. The Kenya Red Cross Society is now urging the president to ensure the Disaster Risk Management Bill and Framework Bill sees the light of the day to enable them work effectively.
But also, as the President of the Republic, we would like to put to you to support us to push is the Disaster Risk Management Bill and Framework, because this has been, I think, probably more than 15 years on the table, lots of discussions where we have also been engaged.
And I think for us, as Kenya Red Cross, we are discussing with them and we are saying, what is it
that we can do together to alleviate the issues of climate change within our region, because the climate change issues is affecting food security. I come from the Rift Valley, and one of the issues that has come out clearly is that the climate change has even affected the tea production.
Kenya is currently facing the worst drought in 40 years that is attributed to the 4 successive failed rains, and a lot of work needs to be done in mitigating its effects. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Matters now. The Senate Standing Committee on Health Tuesday held a meeting with the family of the late Maureen Anyango, a mother who lost her life due to alleged negligence while delivering twins to Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, the Senate committee is now threatening to shut down the facility if the situation remains dire.
They say time heals all wounds, but this is not relatable to the family of the late Maureen Anyango, who are still struggling to come to terms with her death 2 months later. Their quest for justice led them before the Senate Health Committee, where the late Maureen's husband, 28-year-old Robert Omondi, painfully narrated to the committee the turn of events on Monday, the 5th of September this year, when he rushed to Mama Lucy Hospital after receiving the best news that his wife had given birth to twins. Unable to hold back tears, Robert recalled the painful moment when he found his wife swimming in a pool of blood and allegedly neglected by medical personnel at the facility for approximately 4 hours.
But so niliacha mtoto kuja kuangalia, mkapata there's a lot of blood. And akaniambia chukua hiyo cotton wool uniingizie huko chini, of which I did 2 times. Nikatoa cotton wool tulikuwa tumebeba, nikararua, so namfunua hivi, naangalia huko chini, alafu najaribu kupress hiyo damu isitoke.
And when doctors deemed it fit to check up on Maureen at their convenient time, her condition was worse, calling for a second operation, but her condition only got more worse.
Wakakaa hapo like 10 minutes, then kidogo hivi wakamtoa na hiyo bedi yote wakienda nje. So hapa kwa Jumini ilikuwa kwa mlango, so mke wangu the last word aliniambia ninunulie mtoto au watoto 9,
because even if you go for negligence for 50 million and after 1 week more patients are dying, there's no progressive realization of socio-economic rights. We are simply killing our people.
At 9 p.m. on that same day, the doctors were forced to transfer Maureen to a referral hospital, with Kenyatta University teaching a referral hospital and the Machakos Level 5 being the top options, a move that did not go well with Robert, who lacked the 200,000 Kenya shillings needed in the 2 facilities.
Kama kuna umetafuta kuna, wacha tuangalia option, the third option. So nikarudi. So for some dakika kidogo wakakuja wakaniambia tumepata referral, but sasa ni Kiambu, but Kiambu wamekubali kuadmit Maureen bure, but hizo expenses watainka akiwa hapo ndani, then mtalipa baadaye.
I am wondering why this hospital did not even give a referral to Kenyatta. I would be very interested when the management is here, Mr. Chairman.
The transfer to Kiambu Level 5 Hospital was accompanied by a myriad of challenges, citing incompetent nurses and ambulance drivers, a revelation that angered a section of senators.
I would not even hire a personal driver who doesn't know his way about Nairobi. Why would you give an ambulance to somebody who doesn't know where they are going? You know, if somebody is trained and is employed as a nurse, then, Mr. Chairman, they don't even know which equipment goes where. I would really hate for any one of us to find ourselves in this situation.
And I think we need to cast our net a bit wider and also really speak to the union that accredits these medical service providers. Because sometimes they rush to their union to seek protection, yet they should really face the law.
Efforts by doctors at Kiambu Level 5 to try and save Maureen's life proved futile as she breathed her last on Tuesday, the 6th of September.
Alikuwa amepass asubuhi, alikuwa warm. Alikuwa warm, naweza mguza face, alikuwa still warm. Nikalia all.
Najua tu wenye wamezaa hata mtoto mmoja na kushinda. Sijakuwa nikilala since Marina ende. Nalalanga mchana. Watoto wananisumbua usiku. What I need justice to be done.
The Senate Health Committee is now threatening to explore all possible avenues, including shutting down the facility.
Seriously, bwana mwenyekiti, ikiwa tumefikia hapo, I agree. Let's close that hospital.
And if it means that we have to shut the hospital. Senator Sifuna, I know you deeply are for your people in Nairobi. But we cannot afford to continue losing lives at the expense of still offering services that are killing our people.
Definitely tazuri hospitali na mambo yakifika mahali lazima tuwatafuta wale hata parade identification. Hakuna kitu tazuia kamati hili kufanya. Kwa sababu jambo hili ni jambo nzito sana. Tukizingatia vile Robert ameweza kusimulia yale mambo yalitokea, hii kifo ni kifo ambaye ingeweza kuepukika iwapo mama huyu angepata huduma wakati inahitajika.
Maureen was laid to rest on the 30th of September this year in Migori County. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
Now to the classrooms. The Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms has begun the public hearing on the competency-based curriculum. The Working Party's chair, Professor Raphael Munavu, is in Turkana County, where he expressed optimism with the exercise that has officially kicked off on Tuesday. Sharon Baranga reports.
Kenyans from 10 counties had an opportunity to participate in the first public hearing of the competency-based curriculum. The chair of the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms, Professor Raphael Munavu, led the team in Turkana. For close to 7 hours, the team pitched tent at Lodwar Boys High School, listening to residents.
Today is the first time that we are getting views from the public about CBC, but also views about TVET, views about universities, views about how do we deliver our curricula and how do we structure the delivery system.
One of the most challenging area is the provision of teaching and learning materials. These teaching and learning materials are not available in school, neither at home.
Apart from CBC, residents of Turkana also voiced their concerns on issues affecting learners in the county, such as drought and insecurity. In Nyandarua County, it was a similar script. Residents turned up to air their views on the CBC with hopes that their concerns and recommendations to the Professor Stephen Kiama-led team will help in improving the implementation of the new curriculum.
I believe that the concern that the Nyandarua people have shown yesterday and today to come and give their views is because of the concern they have for education. Should the children remain, or the pupils remain in primary school, should they move to secondary school?
Professor Collins Odote led the team in Migori County, where they listened to individuals and organized groups. Odote urged parents and education stakeholders to turn up in numbers and give their views on the CBC.
We have listened to border associations. Just this, as we're going for lunch, we just received a memorandum from the Matatu Association. We have listened to and received submissions from religious leaders. We've received submissions from NAT, from KNUT. We have received submissions from PET.
In Narok County, the Bishop of a Pentecostal Assemblies of God Church, John Olemporkoi, wants the government to prioritize guidance and counseling sessions in both lower and upper primary schools. Members of the Working Party will spend 2 days in each county documenting Kenyans' opinions from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Working Party is also receiving recommendations in form of proposals through written memoranda, letters, or research papers. The Working Party is not starting from ground zero. 0, but it will also consult reports from previous commissions and working parties. Kenyans have until 18th November 2022 to submit their concerns on the competency-based curriculum. The Working Party on Education Reforms has 6 months to deliver a conclusive report on the recommendations that they will arrive at after engaging with education stakeholders and also conducting a public participation. Sharon Baranga, TV47.
And now to some county affairs. Meru County Assembly has rejected 7 out of the 10.
Tourism Investment and Cooperative, Kasti Misheni of Youth, Sports, Gender and Social Development, James Morongi of Roads, Energy and Public Works, Jafet Idhenji of the Ministry of Lands, and Caroline Karea of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries.
The committee has carried out its mandate objectively as per the laying down regulations and as per the law and the constitution, citing numerous acts, that is the Public Appointments Act, the County Governments Act, and also the Constitution of Kenya.
This, however, came a few hours after Governor Mwangaza scheduled a consultative meeting with the MCAs on Thursday this week at 9 a.m. at her official residence. The embattled governor also invited Meru Senator Gadore Morongi and the 9 elected members of parliament to the meeting in efforts to experienced dissension with the assembly.
And Honorable Senator of Meru, Kaduri Morongi, who is also the Deputy Speaker for a consultative meeting on 3rd November 2022 at the Governor's residence boardroom from 9 a.m.
In the letter addressed to MCAs dated October 31st, the county CEO said she was willing to sort out the misunderstanding that has threatened service delivery in the county. The bone of contention between the two arms of Meru County government has been the management of Ward Fund. Mwangaza now insisting that she is ready to discuss the matter with the MCAs, and I quote, "I am ready to discuss it with the honorable members of the County Assembly on its management and come up with a workable solution." End of quote.
Her Excellency, the Governor, in nominating and submitting another candidate for approval by the County Assembly, do consider replacing the nominees with other candidates from the same sub-county as the rejected ones.
The invitation comes days after the Council of Governors, through its chair, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, met with her Meru counterpart and the leadership of the Meru County Assembly to seek a truce on the stalemate. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47.
Right, thank you for that, Mike Kagwongo, and definitely we'll be taking a look at the whole Meru situation. And obviously we're actually expecting tomorrow the members of the County Assembly and the Governor, Kawira Mwangaza, will be meeting for a whole consultative meeting. So we'll be getting into that with the panelists to discuss what to expect from that particular meeting. And we'll obviously be interacting with the panelists to know how so far, 51 days in President William Ruto's office, what has he achieved so far? He listed quite a number of things that he said, include the whole hustle fund, 50% of the cabinet for the women, implementing 2/3 gender rule, assigning responsibilities for the Deputy President, William Ruto's Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, and the Prime CS, and also action on corruption and appointing of the judges, funds to the counties, lowering cost of living, returning operations, quite a number of them. We'll be interacting with them. And in obviously, James Gakuya Embakasi, North Member of Parliament, Duncan Maina Nyeri Town Member of Parliament, and also Titus Lute Member of Parliament for Kachiliba, and also the former Deputy Governor of West Pokot, who are in the studio right now. We're definitely, obviously, expecting Isaac Moro, former senator, also will be taking a look at that. Director, I think we can now take a short break before we come back.
You are watching TV 47, the home
of untold stories. Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs, living comfortable in affordable and How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands. Every Monday to
can feel there's a lot of hope ahead.
Right, and speaking of matters, rain and all that, I want to start with you, Honorable Titus Lute. As speaking about the whole drought situation, before we come into the dailies, the whole drought situation, mostly in West Pokot, has hit quite hard. How is the situation like as a leader in that area? How is the situation like in that area?
Well, thank you and good morning. Well, I think as we speak about rains in Nairobi, and there's something that I'm trying to learn from the people living in Nairobi, is that when there's rain in Nairobi and then everywhere has got rain, it is a very different scenario, because I've just been speaking to people at home, and absolutely these guys have not seen rain for a long time. I think the issue of drought in this country is an aspect that has been caused by the climate change, and we can all attest to that. Nobody at this particular time knows what time the rains are coming, and I think it becomes very, very confusing for our farmers to know what time they're going to plant and what time they're not going to plant. As we speak today, I think we can already see from Kajiado, because people learn from those environments that are closer to Nairobi, that the price of livestock have dropped drastically from 20,000 per cow to now 500 shillings per cow. That basically tells you how bad the situation is, and already the pastoralist communities, West Pokot and Kachaliba in particular, we've lost 50% of our livestock already to drought. And as I'll tell you this, as we speak, how bad this is, we've got camels that are brought all the way from Isiolo via lorries to Kachaliba. That basically tells you that the Isiolo part, the entire north, is completely dry, and so they are trying to get places where they can get fodder. So there is entirely, the situation is not very good. It is dry, and soon we are going to see conflicts. And these conflicts are going to be very different, because initially we've actually seen conflicts between communities that are living close to each other. Mm-hmm. Now we are seeing livestock coming from as far as Isiolo, 500, 600 kilometers away to come and look for fodder. Today, we are talking about the price of gorogoro. That's something that people know very well. It's not come down yet. I actually was seeing in the newspapers, and they're saying that the price of commodities are coming down. I'm surprised which side of this country are people living, and which side of the country is Kachaliba. The price of this item is going up every single day, and as we speak, we are actually appealing. 156,000 people are actually facing starvation. People are actually eating wild fruits. People are eating wild roots. And I think after that, if nothing happens, if the rains do not favor us, and I believe God will also favor us like it's done to Nairobi,
indeed,
we are going to perish.
And also the exams are around the corner, the national exams. This is also affecting the candidates in that area, right?
Totally. Actually, I've been speaking to teachers, and they're appealing for food so that they can have children in school. And I'm sure a teacher will tell you, I've got only 1 bag of maize or 2 bags of maize. There's no school feeding program yet in place. I think it's because the government is forming. And it is a little bit of a scaring for the class 3 or class 6 and class 8, class 6, and then class 8, is it, and Form 4. Mm-hmm. So it's becoming a little bit of difficult thing for us, and we are appealing. Actually, I'll take this opportunity to appeal to all Kenyans, those that are harvesting. I actually saw one in Nyandarua saying that they're surprised that there are some parts of Kenya where people are dying. I appeal to those that have got food, if they can be able to support us with food. The people of Kachaliba and the entire north are actually suffering.
Indeed, and Honorable Maina, this, many were shocked that some parts of Nyeri, hearing that some parts of Nyeri there's actually drought. Is this the situation in the area?
It is, and anybody in this country pretending to be shocked that there is drought in Nyeri, then I wonder where they live. Because they should know that Nyeri County is one out of the 17 counties that are classified in government statistics as ASAL. Because 52% of Nyeri comprises what is known as Kieni constituency or sub-county today, and that is an ASAL region except for a very small portion around Narumoro in Kieni East. A part of Nyeri town constituency, half of the ward known as Kigajo Madhari ward, again lies in the same climatic zone as the rest of Kieni. That is the area known as Nyarifu, Kiganjo, Kerisho, Kahiga, and Doroto. And there is a misinterpretation of the drought situation in this country. There is so much focus on the areas where livestock have become emancipated and people are dying. But by the time livestock became emancipated, then the food crops in the farms had dried months earlier. And the dried food crops were actually used to support the livestock up to this point in time. The small-scale farmers in the arid areas actually suffered from hunger months before the livestock keepers got affected. And therefore there is need to reevaluate our approach to the whole scenario about food provision in this country. The second aspect, we need to redefine food in our country. How come we have an oversupply of carrots, of cabbages, of potatoes in Nyandarua County that are rotting in the field, yet because there is shortage of maize, people want to say that we are hungry in this country? What is the correct definition of food in our country? So that people, if we have an abundance of the horticultural produce against the staple food crop that is maize, should we still be saying that people are hungry? Or should we redefine food? Yes, the horticultural crops are perishable, but the truth is you cannot feed on maize alone. And therefore, the food system and the future of food in our country and the sustainability of food production. As a Kikuyu, I can sleep soundly having fed on potatoes in the evening as on my dinner plate.
Right.
There are people who will claim on potatoes they are still hungry despite the abundance. Lastly, in my constituency, Nyeri Town, the urban poor got affected by COVID because the daily manual labor that they depend on dried up long time ago. And therefore, as we focus on the pastoralists and Northeastern and Kajiado and the rest, can we focus on the urban poor? I have a group of urban poor who do not even have permanent residences in Nyeri Town, in an area we call Wetemere. I have very poor people, pockets of poverty in Nyeri Town constituency. In the former colonial villages, 17 of them spread across the constituency. Those people depended on manual labor in the coffee farms. The coffee in the farms has dried up. The coffee plant, which is a tree, has dried up in the farms. Yet, we do not have intervention from government and NGOs and other players in the food sector in supporting those people. The situation is not good, and we need a critical evaluation of including the definition of food and the food distribution system.
Right, and Honorable Gakwe, I want to bring into this conversation, there's the whole paradox of road infrastructure and then surplus food production in some areas. Honorable Ruto was talking about, farmers in Nyandarua saying that, what are you guys talking about? We do have food here. We can actually give you, some of this food. Bring the trucks, we will bring you, the food. But then there's the whole paradox of one area has surplus food, but then the other doesn't have the road infrastructure. Where does this lie as a country?
Thank you. Allow me also to salute the viewers wherever they're watching us from, and especially those from my great Embakasi North constituency. Coming to the debate on the table, Let me say, yes, I do witness that, in fact, most of the areas in the rich farming or agricultural areas, you realize that they have what we call scarcity of road infrastructures. But me, what I would say is that since the Rome was and built a day, this country has moved miles when it promulgated the new constitution. And that is when we at least managed to have those small devolution units by the name counties. And I believe that, in fact, the biggest task of these counties is just to widen up and open up those areas that were believed to be have forgotten. Those other days where there was a claim that actually the distribution of the national cake is not fair to every sector or to every region. Now, no single region can stand to tell us that actually they are not enjoying the national cake. And therefore, if there is any single blame, they can start blaming their managers of their counties, because that is where the kickstart of most of these rocked areas should get assistance from. But if we can always keep on insisting that the national government, then what was the essence of those county governments if they don't, they seem not to have any single copy of what is required to be done on their areas. In the case we are in, suppose now we are talking about issues to do with droughts and other calamities. What are the counties doing to make sure that they stand as the first unit to deal with this particular drought? We have every single county, according to our constitution, that is where we have what we call disaster management units. And these disaster units have their budgets. What are they doing to just to make sure that they are in the front to fight with these menace? In areas where this particular drought is areas that actually the management of the counties must come with the new strategies and formulas on how to sustain their people, and especially those who are pastoralists and livestock dealers. How can they be able to sustain their livelihood? There is this kind of foods like hay, which is dried food for animals, which can be well stored in those areas. They have plenty of money to sink boreholes to make sure that these areas are not totally dry and to their situation as they are today. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I can blame the counties because they don't seem that as if they have any single dare to deal with problems within their counties.
Honorable Lotte, I want to bring in this. He says that he basically blames the counties. You're second in command in West Pokot. You're obviously in charge of the county. Is the county to blame, as he says? What is the role of the county and that particular devolved unit in ensuring the drought response, basically?
Well, I think if you look at the way counties are structured and the way our constitution is structured in terms of who does what and who holds the pulse of this country, I will not entirely blame the county government. This currently is what has been happening. I've been second in command and actually know how and when counties are operational and when counties are not operational. The pulse of this country is managed by the National Treasury. And now there's a lot of control in terms of what you're supposed to get and when you're supposed to get it through the IFMIS system. So that if there is an emergency response that is required to be done by any county, you need to fill all those documents and then send through the system to the National Treasury for approval. So with that kind of control, I think counties are not able to respond in any emergency situation. Because sometimes you find that counties even go for months without salaries.
But then basically, how long does this whole process take?
It takes a long process. It takes a long process. You know, government systems.
We're speaking months?
Well, not months. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is weeks, sometimes it is months. It depends on the mandarins that are sitting at the National Treasury. Sometimes it say, these documents are not filled. Please fill this document first. Can you do this signature? Can we see this minutes? So there's a lot of control Initially, if you come to the devolution, the first devolution of 13 to 17, 2013 to 2017, the National Treasury used to release money to the county accounts. And so counties had more latitude in terms of how they were supposed to utilize that money and then account for it later. What is happening now is the reverse of it all, that you first of all need to show National Treasury how you're supposed to spend the money and then get approval from them. It's just like applying for a loan. If you apply for a loan, you are not very in control of when you're going to get the loan because it depends on the people that are sitting to approve the loan. And so that is what happens. So if we are talking about counties responding to emergencies at when emergencies are required, then I think there's a lot of control from the National Treasury. Two, I think let's look at the whole aspect of what is the role of the county and what is the role of the national government in terms of our food security. Who holds a more a bigger position in terms of ensuring that we get proper food security in this country? I think food security, just like national security, is critically a national government sitting. And so the national government is the one that is supposed to be ensuring that everybody within this country is food secure as much as they are also entitled to a security against harm. So I think for me, I will not blame county government. The only place where county governments can be blamed is that they should be proactive in ensuring that their agricultural departments actually putting into place systems and aspects to ensure that the people within those counties are also getting more harvests, getting more food products, and that those food products can then help them at the time when there is hunger like now. But once an hunger situation has been set in like now, I think it becomes the responsibility of the national government to feed the people.
Right. Honorable Maina Mahesh, speaks about counties depending largely on the national fund. If this particular fund was, or rather the counties were to manage these funds and rule themselves on the whole drought situation, will it have helped the situation?
I cannot overstress the need for timely release of county allocations by the National Treasury. That is not in doubt in anybody's mind. And I think as the National Assembly, we need to hold the Treasury to account in terms of timeliness in the release of funds that are supposed to enable devolution to take effect. However, after 10 years of devolution, the county governments by now should also have come to terms with the way that government operates, because nothing prevents the county governments from preparing in advance in terms of filing the documentation that the Treasury requires. Number two, nothing stops the county governments from engaging the National Assembly, where really the whole matter of budget and finance is domiciled, so that the National Assembly, in terms of its legislative function, can enable counties access their share of funds in a more timely manner than currently is happening. There is a misconception that the counties are confined to engaging only with the Senate. The governments, we have 48 governments in this country, the national government, and 47 county governments. The National Assembly has mandate sufficiently in terms of matters national. And the release of the funds is not a county matter, it is a national matter. Secondly, the Parliament, the National Assembly of this country, cannot escape censure. And I sit in that National Assembly as a first-timer. Cannot escape censure in terms of the failure of our country to be better prepared in terms of disaster preparedness and disaster handling. I know, even as I was not in the 12th Parliament, that there has been a bill sponsored largely by the Kenya Red Cross on disaster management, response and preparedness. But it has not seen the light of day. And I would today call upon the Red Cross, even as I'm not a member of the Red Cross, that they have a friend in the National Assembly, that they can come and they can have somebody who will adopt and push for this bill to see the light of day. I think that would level and unlock a lot of the bottlenecks that we have. As leaders, we have to be more pragmatic. We have to own up to where we have shortcomings, where we sit, and also help the other players in the nation, in the affairs of this nation, to perform better.
So basically, counties should be prepared. Should always be prepared for this.
Definitely. Today, the question of food storage by households is the responsibility of county governments. I have not seen any movement in that direction over the past 10 years. However, at the same time, at the national level, we have the strategic food reserve. Where are we at the national level? Where is the National Assembly in terms of being more demanding and more firm in terms of ensuring that the strategic food reserve in this country is always intact and ready to disburse foods earlier than at this point in time where we are showing pictures of dying children and dying women. So as a nation, we need to re-engineer our thinking about leadership.
But then basically, I mean, some Kenyans will argue that as much as the whole, food is being disbursed, it doesn't actually reach them.
Yes, and I have given you an example of that in my constituency. I know people are sleeping hungry, yet the county commissioner Nyeri sat in the national in the committee that was formed at the national level between the presidency and the Department of Interior that agreed on a planning and zoning and identifying the very needy areas where response should have happened yesterday. However, it is so easy for us to keep pointing at the problems. Everybody can complain. There are very few Kenyans who are willing and are bold enough to point out to where the solutions should lie. I think it is a misnomer today to think that the Ministry of Interior staff, civil servants, are the best placed people to spearhead the distribution of food. They have always done it. We have always had these problems. This issue of food distribution should be multi-agency and multi-stakeholders. I would like to be involved in the distribution of food in Nyeri Town constituency because on a daily basis, I'm able to receive phone calls from households that are sleeping hungry. But I do not need to walk to the county commissioner's office to find out about why that family is sleeping hungry. We can improve on the existing system, and we can establish a framework, an accountable and more transparent framework for food distribution.
Thank
you. Well, I think there is what my colleague has said in terms of food distribution. If you look at the Schedule 4 of the Constitution of Kenya, it says that the national government is the one that is supposed to manage disaster management. And I think what we actually face now in this country is disaster in terms of lack of food. So it is a whole aspect of the national government. But I think there is a problem in terms of how we've looked at the food distribution. And it is true, like you say, the food that is being given by government does not entirely reach the population. And if you ask questions as to why the food is getting lost, you will be told because there is an aspect of transport which is probably even costlier than the food itself. And so the county commissioner and the team are actually told there is food truck that is moving from Nairobi to the county headquarters, that is Kacheliba, if I have to go talk about Kacheliba, the constituency I represent, and the food is left at the county commissioner's office. So in terms of who takes care of the food, no allocation is done for that. In terms of how the food is actually moved from the stores to the person that is supposed to receive the food, no allocation is done for that. And so what these people do, they conspire and they sell some bit of the food so that they can cater for the transportation and the handling costs. But then they always overdo it to the levels where the food itself disappears. I think there was an aspect in this country of cash disbursements. And cash disbursement is more effective, and it doesn't have an aspect of cost of handling and transport. I do not know the reason why we are actually getting it wrong, that unless we distribute food to you and the food that we want, we are not serving you. If I'm given 1,000 shillings I can be able to decide on what kind of food I can, what kind of food is available, which one is nearer to me, than if they bring me maize. What about if I don't take maize? So I think in terms of human dignity, this country needs to shift from the aspect of giving me food that is considered as good for everybody to the levels of giving me cash. Because at the end of it...
Now on that, how will that be effective? If the cash was disbursed to Kachiliba constituency, then how? So from there, because the residents will be, how much will you be giving per household? What will be the policies around that?
Well, there are policies in terms of this, because everybody, every Kenyan, probably everybody now got a phone. With the phone, you're registered. And we can be able to do an audit in terms of whether you got the money or not. And being given cash does not basically mean that we need to go to the county commissioner and then we sell some bit of this food to say that we are paying for transport, which is not accounted for. With the phone, we can be able to have a catalog of who is needy in which society. And once we get that catalog, just like we've got for the elderly, we know who is an elderly person, and every month they are given some stipend by government. So if we can be able to know the very vulnerable within each of the sub-locations, and then that list is going to be escalated through the provincial administration with other stakeholders, so that at the national level, we know we want to use 10 million or 10 billion shillings to distribute relief to the people. So within a system, just like what Safaricom or Airtel or any other mobile companies got, the money can be disbursed. And accountability can be done right from the center, right from Nairobi. We can be able to say, we've distributed this amount of money to all these people, and we can be able to follow it up. And there is no money that will get lost in terms of we are selling it so that we can be able to pay for transport or handling cost. So it has been tried. If, for example, we change today the system, that the elderly that are receiving government money through their mobile phones, we start now taking them to them clothing or whatever. Let me tell you, they will never, those elderly people will never receive those things from government. But because they are receiving it in cash, those elderly people are actually thanking the government because it is reaching them. So I think let's change the whole system also when we are dealing with relief food. And it is something that we can do it very quickly from Nairobi. If you just a click of your button, the person in Kachiliba can be able to receive the 100 or 200 or 1,000 shillings, and this person can make a decision of where they're going to get their food items.
All right.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we are in the 21st century. Mheshimiwa, I've seen you nodding the whole from food to cash. In Embakasi North, Member of Parliament, your residents are listening to you this morning. Will you be in agreement in this, the whole from food to cash, so that they can receive a stipend at the end of at the end of the month, at the end of 2 months, or so on?
One thing, there is always handles in matter handling this relief food. One thing we must also consider that most of these foods are donated foods. We get these donations, free donations from maybe China or elsewhere. And most likely, they are not ready to give out cash. So what do? Once you are in their need and you have been given food by a neighbor, you just accept what you have been given. But in case we are dealing with this particular monster internally and we are using our own resources, then the element of cash can be applicable and it is easier to deal with it. But if you are expecting to have or supply food, already food that actually you're expecting to get from outside the country through donations, then the donations you have to receive them as they come and supply them as they come. And I think that's the root goal. But in case, then we are saying that in fact we have a fund that is purely a fund to cater for disaster. That fund should take what we call the audit of a certain region, and I am sure that administratively this can be done. You can be able to know the number of households that are their need in this, and at least you can be able to put them in the system, and they can be able to access that fund through that chain of soft money. And I think that is workable. But therefore, at this point, we must agree we have these in two forms. One, there is those who provides cash donations, and there are those who provides goods in terms of food. Then therefore, as they come to you, you need to supply them as they are. and as they come. What we need to do is that, in fact, administratively, I know that there's a big problem, and those who have been administration has been a big roadblock or a barrier in these particular commodities reaching to the user. And you arrive that, in fact, there is a storm problem in Garissa or somewhere else. And you realize there is that collaboration between maybe the area DC, Rodeo, to sell this food. And you realize that this money is sold and they are back to the millers. This food has not reached to the intended purposes. And those are the areas that are grey. And that's why we need this county government to assist, because they are far reaching to down there and they can monitor. Unless that somebody who is far in Nairobi, who cannot be able to monitor what is happening in Mayore, what is happening in Wajir, and what is happening in elsewhere. But the governor there, in communication with what is happening in Nairobi, that delegation of work, he can probably know, goes, if there is a number of trucks that are designated to go to Wajir, the governor should see in person that these vehicles have already landed here, and these are the food, and at least here, assert that the food has now arrived in my area. And then from that point, he can be able even to have team to monitor in the areas to be supplied. And I think that way. But if only you say that this is the work for national government only, then it's like the county government are not part of us.
Right, and we'll definitely be interacting with Honorable Isaac Mora. As I promised you earlier, he has joined us, and we'll be interacting with him later on, former senator and former nominated senator, pardon me. And gentlemen, I want us to, in the Daily Nation, the whole 50 days of Ruto's regime, still on, just to briefly clear up on the whole drought situation. Honorable Lotte, will you say that the drought situation has lowered down, or rather slowed down, Ruto's ambitious pledges?
Well, there is no country in the world, including the household, that is not affected by nature. So the drought situation undoubtedly has affected the performance of this government, because now the government is actually channeling resources from development to start addressing the humanitarian needs. And so basically I can really say the government needs to do more, but at it all, the government has been affected by the drought situation. So without being political, I think it has affected the government.
Right.
Yeah.
And now let us look at the Daily Nation, the front page, 50 days of Ruto's regime. And as I had read earlier, quite a number of 100-day promises. Right now we are in day 51. I think, if my math is correct, 49 more days to go. The hits and misses of it. Page 5, actually, at a glance, says the hits and misses. So during the campaign period, the president and his allies made many promises. Those that the new administration has so far met include swearing in of judges rejected by his predecessor, that is former President Uhuru Kenyatta, reverting port operations to Mombasa, and forming a task force to review the country's education system. But the president has failed on his promises to form a state capture commission and to bring down the prices of food and fuel. Honorable, I want to begin with you right now. So basically, will you say right now that the whole forming of this particular state capture commission, so basically, okay, I'm being told that we'll definitely be getting into the whole Ruto's hits and misses. We need to take a short break, then we'll dive into this. Quite a number of things to actually look at, the whole Ruto's hits and misses, and also on page, the front page of the Standard, Kinoti's left exposed in shakeup. Taking a look at that, the new IG boss is set to be basically vetted, and also the vetting of the PSs. Keep talking to us on our social media platforms at TV47KE. There's on Facebook and Twitter, and also number 2047 on our SMS number. We'll be right back.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Hey!
know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians.
And this station actually, so I found my way.
Welcome.
Yes.
So before the break, we were talking about Ruto's hits and misses, and it is extensive on page, basically the front page of the Daily Nation, and extensive on page 4 and 5. So I had read out, the hits and misses, and I was to start with you, Honorable Maina, on the whole state capture commission, basically. So 49 more days to the end, the expiry of the 100-day, basically the 100 days. Is this a failed? Are we going to ever see this commission, or is it in the works?
President Ruto is on the right track. There's a misconception about focusing on counting the 100 days. But
then
there is a well-known principle of a rapid resource initiative.
But then,
and that is where...
in his campaigns, he's the one who said, I'll do this in 100 days. So why
I agree.
Focusing on 100 days?
I agree. Mm-hmm. There is a well-known global principle on rapid resource initiatives and how it is processed within normal government operations. You cannot judge, it is too early to judge the president as having failed in terms of 50 days. There is the expectation, legitimate expectation and legitimate knowledge that there are timelines within which the entire structure of government, at least the first, second, and third tier, is going to be established. And we are on cue, we are on schedule. I've had members of the minority, I don't want to call them the opposition, members of the minority keep humming and saying that the president seems to be forgetting that he's no longer on the campaign trail. However, they are the ones who are on the campaign trail because they are insisting that the promises made by the president and the Kenya Kwanza team are like instant coffee or instant tea. There is policy and there is the legal framework under which all government operations are done. On one hand, they cannot, and including the media, we cannot criticize the president and saying that he's becoming dictatorial, to use the words of one Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, that the president, in the pronouncements that he has made so far, he is not working with the cabinet. Yet say, by the way, on this one, you have not acted. Let's use all our lenses. As somebody said, we are in a vehicle, you have a driving mirror, which is quite large. But on that driving mirror, on both sides, you've got side mirrors. And right at the center of the driving mirror, you've actually got a rear view mirror. So we have to look at this thing holistically at 360 degrees. It is a promise that was made. I am sure, we are confident that it's going to be delivered. However, doing it in a hurry...
9 days or now later, maybe in his 5-year tenure.
Everybody reevaluates the progress that they are making. taking into consideration all the context and all other factors that need to be holistically on board. There was a claim that this issue of state capture, for example, was an outright attempt to go after the outgoing government. But this is a holistic approach. State capture has not begun to exist in the last 5 years. Even when you go to a post-independence government, you'll find an element of capture. You go to the second government under President Moi, there was an element of state capture. You come to the lane of Mwai Kibaki, there was an element of state capture. The agro-risings were happening at that time. When you come to the time of retired President Uhuru, we also know the scandals, the KEMSAs and the rest. And therefore, there is need to get it right. Just like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, just like the commission that reconciled Rwanda. But we do not want to risk to go to the TJRC that was formed in Kenya after the defeated 2007 elections, whose report later was kept in a shelf because we did not seem to have consensus, congruence, and agreement as a nation. On the probe of the state capture, I would personally urge the president to take time and let us get it right so that we heal this country for once and for all. This culture of the Dongorad report, of the Dewa report, of the TJRC report, of the Akiwumi report that are only picked piecemeal to address the exigencies of the time should come to an end so that we have a national probe that then holistically lays on the table the entire document and the report for this country to either own it up or reject it. I am absolutely certain that in this issue of the commission to investigate state capture, there is need to ensure that all aspects and all angles are put into consideration. We do not want people crying out in this country that this has been formed purely to come after Duncan Maina Madenge. We want it to be part of our national healing.
Honorable Mora, I want to bring you into this conversation, and basically 51 days so far, and well, when Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua assumed office, he said that we'll form a commission on the whole state capture. So far, we haven't heard of anything like this. Should we be still waiting, or let's forget about this?
What is the benchmark with 51 days to begin with? Because I don't think there's urgency. If you look at the plan of the Kenya Kwanza administration, we have quick wins, which are supposed to take 180 days. So if you are talking 180. About... Yes, those are the quick wins.
What happened to the 100 days?
No. The 100 days is actually what you call agenda setting by you, the media. At no any given point did the president ever pronounce himself that within 100 days I'm going to do this and that. In fact, it was the same newspapers that were trying to say do this and that. And of course, the mainstream media was not very friendly to us as a coalition. So we will not follow the agenda of the media. We will follow the agenda of the Kenya Kwanza as per the as per the plan. And we have these are the following timelines. We have the quick wins, which means between 6 months. Then there is a short term, 6 to 18 months, medium term, 18 to 36, and then 36 to 60 months, that is 5 years. That is long term. So we are very clear on what we are supposed to do. Now, please remember, my good brother, is that government is yet to really settle. We agreed to go the Washington consensus way, where you have a president-elect, and in America, they do elections the first week of November, at least 7, 8 there, and the president is sworn in January. We are taking the same precedence because we said people have to be vetted. It's only cabinet that was sworn in on last Thursday. Principal secretaries are yet to be, even named, not even sworn in, and all of the other functions of government. So we cannot say therefore that we just quickly form a state capture commission. Because it has also to be represented. There's a kind of thinking that needs to be there. But that's a commitment that the government has made, And in due course, it's going to be done. Maybe what you should be asking me, rather than just zeroing down on the State Capture Commission, is what has the government been able to achieve?
I was coming to that.
And then the question is quick wins. For example, if you look at the Kenya Kwanza administration, is a right of center, kind of, ideological underpinning. That means that we are looking at issues to do with production rather than consumption. And that's why then fertilizer has, come down from 6,500 to 3,500. Even when inflation is at 9.5%, but you see now the price of commodities is starting to come down. You can see the very robust, idea of opening up markets, for local products. And you saw the president, flagging off Ketepa to Ghana. Because we are talking about value addition, value proposition, getting markets for our produce here. We are importing food worth 200 billion shillings. That is 17% of our import, And so therefore, we are looking at how do we make sure that we increase productivity. And that's why you saw, for example, the president going to launch the Thiba Dam and promising that there will be other 100 dams to be constructed. We are looking at, for example, thank God, if there is rain. I mean, it's just come as a surprise because we could see the moon up there. But issues of climate change are very important. And the president has pronounced himself very categorically as a champion of climate change to ensure that then we are able to have sustainable development and that we are able to take care of our natural environment because it's where we actually, get resources. There is a very serious commitment that by 1st of December, the Hustler Fund shall be operational. You see? But then, of course, we don't have a principal secretary there, to run the State Department of SMEs as it has been created by the Executive Order number 1. There is also a very clear plan to increase savings, under NSSF, for example, so that then you have proper retirement. That has already been pronounced. The issue of NHIF is in the works, you see. So you can clearly see that the government is on course. It is a slow start again because of the model of government that we took. Otherwise, it was in the old constitution. The president would just hear on radio, he's already constituted government. It does not work that way because of the parameters that have been set, under this supreme law. So I think, by and large, we are on course. The president is forthright. He's been very, determined. And the pronouncements that he's making are being followed through by swift action. For example, even the ministers are now, it's only that the ministers have come in place now, and they are now trying to follow up on some of the things, like you could see Ababu Namwamba there, trying to make sure that FIFA is back. I mean, we are back into FIFA. You could even see Aisha Jumwa trying, to give, the guidelines on how, civil servants are going to get increased pay.
Okay.
I mean, all of these are already happening. So we should not ask about 50 days because there was no such a mark. Our marks are 180 days.
Honorable Lotte, is this a whole case of rhetoric versus reality? The whole rhetoric during the campaign period, now reality has sunk in? Is this a case of such?
Well, thank you. I think just to respond to former Senator Maura here, on 30th of June 2020, when the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto was being launched, it was actually on a Thursday. All those things were said. And the president is in record saying within 100 days, he's going to do 1, 2, 3. One of the items that people were very happy about was that the food items, the prices of food items are going to drop. That was said, and so it's a media rhetoric. And I think it's the first time I'm hearing that that is being disputed here. Nobody has ever disputed that. So I do not want to blame the media. I think the media captured it. It was on a Thursday, Maura, 30th of June 2020. The other thing that I will also say is it is critical that the word that comes from any leader counts. So when I'm speaking about 100 days, I needed to have actually evaluated myself, evaluated the situation, and given the promise based on analysis of facts. I know most of the politicians will always want to tell people and promise people heaven and then deliver something else. But I think it is prudent as a country for us to move from levels where we promise people so that we get their trust and confidence and their vote to levels where we tell them the truth. Because if we do not, it is going to hearten us. It is going to follow us later. At Kasarani, the bitterness was clear that we want to come against the people that worked bitterly against us. But I think with time, the tension is coming down. And so the reason why this commission is not coming now is because the bitterness that they had against the other administration is actually coming down. I believe probably this thing could come later. But truth be said, there are failures that the government is already starting to show to the Kenyans, but there are also hits that they have done. So we cannot say that it's a government that is supposed to be 100%. In any case, you cannot get 100% of a human being.
I was actually coming to that on Honorable Gakuya. Should we be fully focusing on 100% achievability on the government, or just have a whole pass mark on at least you've managed this percent of hits?
One, let us agree that in fact any single government, and especially such a fragile government of Kenya economically, there is no miracle that we have been expecting that we put on place to make things drive. Let us also agree that in fact the government has its money that actually to just wake up and just distribute. It is its duty. It's just a custodian. It collects this revenue so that the same revenue can be taken back to the communities in terms of service. And in this particular case, we understand very well where we are coming from, because we are sure that in fact in our reserves there was no such money that actually this regime found in place. And therefore, what is the regime doing? It is to collect revenue from the people and distributing back what it is collecting. And therefore, at the state we are in, this drought situation, this situation can slow most of the prejudice, because there is no way you can leave your people suffering and starving, moving to other prejudices that are not urgent. You must, first and foremost, put a priority of what is now there at this moment. And I think what we should do as a nation is to make sure that nobody is going to die out of hunger in the country, whatever way, whatever means it can be found. And that's why I'm saying it has to be a collective measure between the national government and our county government. And there's no way that we can allow our county government just to remain silent, watching people suffering out there, just expecting that the national government is the only arm that has mandate on this particular aspect. And therefore, even where witches within our country, this is high time. We don't want to hear those billionaires who cannot come out this particular time and assist the lives of our people. And this is not William Ruto's problem. It is a problem of all of us, and we must collectively be seen working towards that direction. Number two, let us not forget, whether we have what we call opposition or minority or majority, the country is our country, and nobody, including Raila Amolo Odinga, his thought and mindset must be how this country can grow better and at least achieve our dreams as a country. Not forgetting that in fact he's a citizen of this country and he can only live well in this country. And therefore that is that should be the essence and mindset of all of us. The government is here, the government of the day. It has its promises to the people of Kenya, and it will deliver, because surely the deliverance of most of these pledges has to be after collecting revenue enough to distribute. And there is no way that you can be able to collect and leave your money in the exchequer without distributing, because there are most urgent needs. We're not forgetting that we found a budget already which was budgeted by the last regime, and this government has a duty to sit after constituting the budget committee, the treasury, and the rest of its organs, so that they can still now move in to review areas that actually they can prefer to take slow move and give priority to those areas of their need.
Right. Honorables Moira, a reaction on what Honorable Lote was saying.
Well, Titus Lote and I are Ford IFP alumni, so we have a history together with this gentleman.
Sure.
But it's very interesting to say that the government has failed when even 100 days that he expects to have performed are not yet over. I mean, that's not a very good indictment. I honestly believe that, yes, we cannot expect 100%, but we cannot also accept failure because it has not happened, you know. So ab initially, preemptively, that is not something we should be talking about because we have to give this administration, if we are to do a proper review, it can only be at the medium term. And in other, democracies, in other jurisdictions, that's when you have midterm elections, especially for the lower levels of government, like local government. In this case, maybe county government. But then we combined ours to have a general election that has got 6, electoral seats to be, contested and won or lost in that regard. But then what I want to say in that regard is that, of course, we are finding our footing as Kenya Kwanza. But then the opposition, and I didn't think Titus Lote should have belonged there anyway, is my friend. They're also finding their footing. They have not yet really grasped how to criticize government. And they need to be a loyal opposition. So what they are engaging is what you call reactionary communication, where you say something, then they want to be oppositional. Of course, that's the nature of our polemic kind of democracy. But I think, to be fair to all of us, it's still too early to call. You cannot say that now we have to judge this and that. And why am I saying so? As Honorable Gakuya has put across, the Kenya Kwanza administration has inherited an insolvent economy. And I'll give you the statistics. This country collects about 2.1 trillion shillings. We have a public debt. The budget now was actually 3.3 trillion. We have a public debt or principal payment of 1 trillion. We are supposed to pay interest at 670 billion. And then you have a county government's bill, because there's a fast charge, and Titus can tell you that, of 370 billion. We in the Senate, in the last Senate, we increased that by 50 billion. And then you have 550 billion for salaries. You have no money for development. That alone is 2.59. You've collected already 2.1 on a good month, on a good year. That is to mean you actually have about 400 billion that you are borrowing. And that is the reason the supplementary that is going to come to the National Assembly, I think in some 1 or 2 weeks, must reduce the government expenditure by 300 billion. But even then, you have to still borrow the difference of about 900 billion. So it is basically a budget that is being restructuring. If you look at our proposal going forward, one of the things that has made our budget unsustainable is because we have been over-projecting revenue, right? And revenue can only be measured through a 3-year projection of the economic growth. And then you reduce your recurrent expenditure up to 75% in order to target a fiscal deficit of up to 3%, 3 to 5%, in my humble submission, by the year 2026, 2027. That way then, at the macro level, you'll be able to have stable expenditure. Because by the end of the day, as the president has put it very clearly, the government can only get money from taxes. The other thing, of course, is to encourage people to pay taxes. Mm-hmm. Our capacity to pay taxes can go up to 3 trillion. So we have a deficit of about 900 billion. If that were to be paid, and then we do what you call fiscal consolidation by reducing wastage here and there, then we'll be able to sustain ourselves. And then now looking at now all of those mega projects that were, incurred upon by the previous administration, some of them which were unbudgeted, can you imagine? I mean, that physical indiscipline is what has made us to be in the hole that we are in. And as the wise man says, if you're in a hole, you stop digging. So you can imagine now inheriting such kind of an economy. I had predicted way back in 2014 that the president in 10 years' time would not have a country and the next president will have a problem. It has come to pass. It has come home to roost. But then we cannot keep on mourning. We have to move forward. Let me make this point. All right. It is akin to when Kibaki took over power. He found an insolvent economy. The country was only able to collect 250 billion. But by the time he left, the collections were about 1.1 trillion. So he actually increased that fourfold. So that is still possible, but the only way that can happen is by increasing production, is by making sure that the boda boda people are able to access affordable credit, single digit, so that they can also make profit. You increase their daily earnings, which is kind of a lottery, from 100, 200 shillings to about 500, 600. Then now you'll increase the tax base that potentially will increase the economy by about 5 trillion. We have a very clear plan.
Let's talk about the practicality of Ruto's radical tax reforms and his call to the taxman to raise at least 3 trillion by the end of 5 years. Honorable Lute, is this practical in
well, I think before that, let me answer
right, yes.
my colleague here. This is Isaac Moura. We actually come from the same background. Well, I think he's spoken about midterm review. And I think we are midterming review. We are reviewing the 100 days promises. We are actually today at the 52nd day of the 100 days. So for us to be able to speak, for us to be speaking about whether the government has performed or not, we are actually looking at the promises of the 100 days. First, I think it's important that we agree that on the 30th of June 2022, there was a promise that some items would be done within 100 days. And so it is critical that we start looking at. Otherwise, then if we don't look at the midterm review of the first 100 days, then we are actually wrong in terms of us projecting the entire 100 days. If there are things that have not been done within the first 52 days, the likability of it being done within the next 48 days, it can already be seen. And one of them, of the things that might not be done within the first 100 days, is the commission. 2, the reason why I say the government has failed, and I actually want to remind him, I said, it is not possible for us to have an 100% performance of any government, including an individual. So what I was actually trying to say is that there are items that were actually urgent and they were required by the Kenyan citizen. And it was promised that the food items, the first day I take into office, the food items are going to drop from 100 shillings of a kilogram of flour to 210. The prices of petroleum went up. And when you listen to the government, they say we are actually reducing, or we are removing subsidies on consumption, and we are actually subsidizing production. But I always say, like I was in the studio before, petrol products or petroleum products are actually an aspect of production, not an aspect of consumption. So if you are actually removing subsidies from petroleum product, you expect anything that depends on petroleum for production will go up, and that's basically why the cost of living has actually gone up. So for us to sit here and say the government for the first 52 days, we are actually the midterm has failed. We have a right to say so because the president himself, speaking in parliament, said, I want to have an accountable part of the assembly. I don't want to use the term opposition because the Constitution 2010 removed that thing. The Constitution 2010 said we're going to have the minority side of the parliament and the majority side of the parliament. And the minority side of the parliament will have their say, and the majority part of this parliament will have their way. But the president actually recognizes the importance of what I'm saying, and any other person that sits on the minority side. To actually remind the government that there are things that they actually said on behalf of the people, and that has not been done. So I think the president is very happy to find that there is a minority side of parliament that keeps on reminding the government of what needs to be done. And so for him, he is happy that this needs to be done. And I think it's important that we remind Isaac and the team that there are things that the government say they're going to do and they have not done. Right. 2, coming to your
we need to take a short break. So the whole question of the practicality of Ruto's radical tax reforms, we'll be getting into that, and also what you're talking about, the quote-unquote opposition, or basically the whole minority. Where does it stand right now? And all the whole cost of living. Quite a lot to discuss. Stay with us. This is Morning Cafe. Don't go too far.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
To move from taxing the poor and instead tax wealth. We are taxing the poor more. And so we want to tax wealth. But when I listen to what the president is saying of late, is that Kenyans are supposed to pay more. So we can be able to actually build our own resources, which is very good. That we do not need to depend on other people's resources. We need to save and we need to tax. And that everybody that probably has got a phone is wondering, the president was wondering why we have got 7 million people on KRA and we've got more than probably 21 or so million people owning phones. So I think for me is right on that particular level to say that we all need to be on the tax radar. But I think what I expected from the president is he should hold to account his word in parliament to say that he needs to tax wealth more than to tax the person who's poor. You cannot tax poverty because if I have nothing, you cannot tax me. I think the president needed to shift his attention more to the people that have got a lot of wealth in this country. We are told that this country, we've got too many, close to 40 million paupers and probably 40,000.
But then how will that be achieved? Because when you look at, when you speak about the wealthy, there are people who control most of the country's economy. So how, again, will he be able to do that?
I think being the president that was elected by everybody, by many people, not by everybody, I think he actually has a goodwill to actually tax wealth. Because there are too many people that have got too much. In fact, most of this wealth is actually stashed abroad. So that this wealth can be repatriated and taxed for the purposes of the common person. To go and tax the person that probably is a mama mboga, probably a person that probably has not more than 1,000 shillings for himself, will not give us anything. Even if you've got all the 21 million under tax radar, probably what we can get from each person is 10 or 20 shillings. That cannot transform the tax reforms that we expect. Mm-hmm. What can transform the tax reform that we expect is to tax the wealth that is actually staying idle, to tax the wealthy that have always been evading paying taxation. And so if you do that, it will be like the kind of supermarkets that we see. If you go to a supermarket, and I'm sorry to mention this, if you go to a supermarket in an environment that has people that are in a slum area, probably you see 1,000 people walking in there, and the purchases that they do is worth 10,000 shillings. But if you go to high-end supermarkets, one person walks in there and be able to purchase items worth 100 or 200,000. Way and above what all these 1,000 poor people have actually been able to purchase. So for me, I'll think and I believe that the president will have a better look into the tax regime and the tax system that is putting into place, not to focus more on the people under KRA radar, but to focus more on the people that have wealth in this country.
Okay. Honorable Gakuya, are these reforms, are they counterproductive, as Mheshimiwa is hinting on?
One thing, let us all agree that, in fact, we have a duty to pay tax, whether you are earning house more. Because let us not ignore that 50 bob that Mama Mboga contributes in terms of daily county corrections. That is what where county depends on. Because that Mama Mboga, at the point that she does her business, require somebody who will come to clean. And that somebody, at the end of the day, will need to have something at the end of the month. And how do you expect that actually you are not contributing a penny and you need that particular service, and the one who provides that service cannot earn any single penny from you? Where do you expect that service to come from? Otherwise, everybody has to have a duty to contribute how much, however little, but at least something on our revenue basket. In this particular case, I would like to say, we are not criminalizing our young business team, where those are Mama Boga and the Boda and the rest are. But what we can say, we are saying as a nation, that's why we are working out of the box, finding a fund that can be able to empower them so that at least they can get stable in the business they are doing, but not forgetting that at least they also need to put something on our revenue basket, however small. And that small thing is that we collect there, then we collect to another cluster, where then the middle class is. We collect at their level, and still we have another level of the rich. Then there you can be able to hit as much as he alluded that actually the bracket of wealth is where we need to tax. And that one, I have no doubt with it. But nobody should be excluded from paying tax. How? Because even though directly we are not seeing these common people paying, but don't forget, if you are enjoying a meal a day, then that single packet of unga, actually there is a tax in that particular unga. If you are enjoying a kilogram of sugar, there is a tax in it. However, it is indirect. You cannot be able to see it, but at least you are paying tax at the end of the day. I am saying, this country, all of us, we need to harness, widen the basket, empower those who are not empowered, so that they can be capable of getting enough for them, and also paying something small in our revenue basket.
Then how effective will taxman, or rather basically collecting the taxes, be if the taxman is friendly, as the president wants the taxman to be friendly while collecting the taxes? How efficient will this be? Before you bring in,
I can tell you, it is workable. During Moi Kibaki's tenure, actually the fight for corruption, because Kibaki came with zero tolerance corruption, the people of this country are the people who are directly helping the country to avoid corruption. You could be able to see when a mat is being stopped by police, by traffic police. If the driver dared to give out something, the public was coming out in alarm that this cannot proceed. And therefore, the best people to partner with is the people. The government should not be able to work alone. It must involve the people to drive this economy together. And what is important is to make sure that the people are the partners. Make sure that they understand all your measures, all your agenda, so that you can ride with them together. But if you leave the people behind, then how can they be able to be part of you? And this one, that's why we emphasize that, in fact, this element of public participation is of essence. So that, in fact, whenever you want to add a single coin to them, let them understand and the reason why. At the end of the day, they are the people who enjoy the services. And if people are sure that if you contribute 1 shilling, at the end of the day, these services of pure clean water is available. The service of infrastructure in terms of road, the service in terms of writing are available. Then Kenyans will ride with you. Right. But the only bad thing is to do things possible to them without engaging them.
Right, Honorable Maina, Raila Odinga said that Ruto should bring the whole tax reforms idea and the whole policies to the National Assembly, so that you as legislators, you can debate on this. If this was tabled on the whole the Parliament, what should we be expecting from your colleagues on this?
Number one, there is an attempt by the minority to hijack the agenda of Kenya Kwanza. They want to dictate in how many days it should be implemented, how fast it should be implemented, who should and who should not be consulted.
But technically, that's
however, what they should be doing is to place alternatives to the proposals by government that they feel are more workable than what the government is proposing. On the tax issue, there is an attempt once again to use the minorities' rents to look at the proposal by the president. The proposal by the president is threefold. Number one, enable the people at the bottom of the pyramid who are earning less below what is known as the tax bracket. Enable them, and they are the majority, enable them to increase their earnings so that they enter the tax bracket. That is number one, and that is where the Hustler Fund comes in. Number two, enable those who are currently in business to expand and modernize so that they have higher profits and therefore they will pay higher taxes because only profits are taxed. Number three, they are the rich and the wealthy who have found ways of avoiding to pay tax. Ensure that they are paying the taxes, the legitimate and due tax. There is no tax evasion, there is no tax avoidance, and there is no hiding from tax. The question of idle land in this country has been on the table of our revenue raising measures for a very long time. Sometimes it is in the finance bill. Along the line before it has been implemented, it is removed by, again, those in whose hands state capture lies. Soil, the soil today is an asset just like cash. Who in this country with money in their hands would keep it idle where it is not multiplying? How come then we are allowing those who are big land owners today to keep this asset idle somewhere? They either grow the asset, but not by mere speculation, so that I'm holding this land until the prices go up. But we want you to activate the asset. If you cannot activate it, we want to tax your speculation. Because that is the path you have chosen to participate in the economy of this country. So the question of idle land, the question of people who own multiple rental properties but are not remitting tax on those properties because they have hidden the properties in the name of their underage children who are not registered for tax in this country. The people who are able to incorporate companies in the tax havens of this world. Those are the people. So those are the people that the president is saying, look, you must pay your due share, your legitimate share of the taxes in this country. But you cannot make profits in this country, siphon them off to a safe haven somewhere so that you are insulated from paying tax in this country.
Right.
If we looked at that three-pronged approach, then you realize that the president is not being ambitious. He is realistic. Lastly, there is an agreement across the board in this country, including the members of the minority, that the amount of VAT that is due to government, the amount collected is a drop in the ocean. There's a huge amount of VAT that is collected at the sales points that never gets to the government coffers as it is supposed to happen. And therefore, the concept of automating, so that if I buy this cup of tea, at the point where I pay, the VAT due is docked off directly into government accounts. When you look at those levels and those approaches, I can see the country actually performing beyond that projection. People in this country are too quick to judge.
Okay.
The minority is too quick to judge. The Bible talks about do not be too quick to judge. Lastly, O ye of little faith, please watch. Please be more faithful.
Honorable Letter, you do have, as you also respond to Honorable Miner's response. Basically, President wants, is targeting to raise about 3 trillion in the next 5 years. How will this, generate the much needed revenue in this whole time?
Well, for me, I think I agree with my colleagues here, and I think this country can only be independent if we can raise our own taxes. But I think I want us to actually a little bit speak to the spirit of Kenyans. And I want us to believe that as the minority are speaking, the minority are raising fundamental questions about this government and about Kenyans. The minority are not there to oppose, and the reason why the term opposition was removed. We're not opposing anything that the government does that is good for Kenyans. We applaud it. And the reason why we've been able to pass laws in Parliament that are proactive and progressive in this country. But if we find that there are things that we need to speak about, we need to speak about it. Let me bring you to this. And I actually want to say, I've spoken about taxing wealth. It doesn't matter how many people you're going to bring into the tax bracket. If they raise nothing, they could have the KRA pins, but they have nothing to offer. And the reason why they have nothing to offer is because there is no production in this country. The cost of living is going up. And so people will try as much as possible to evade tax so that they can make money for their families. Look at this, for example. Nobody in this country wants to declare their true value and true wealth. If you ask the people sitting here how much they are worth, they will not tell you. Why? Because they know the tax man will come unto them. If, for example, we look at the billionaires that were vetted recently as cabinet secretaries, somebody will tell you, I'm worth 120 million. This is a person that has been, let me not quote a figure, probably 100 million or 50 million. Mm-hmm. This is a person that has registered most of the property, like my colleague Miner says, to the names of the relatives. Why are they doing this? People are doing this so that they can evade tax. People are doing this because the former regime was also utilizing that to punish them. And so people do not want to declare their true wealth. If I tell you I'm worth 120 or 150 million, and yet in the public domain, I am known to own the whole location of land, a land that goes at probably 10 million per acre. People can do the maths very quickly. And you can actually see the insincerity that is in our leadership, even when we were actually asking people how much they are worth. And I think every Kenyan, when you are declaring your wealth, people don't say their true value. If we stand today and say, if you do not say your true value, you go to hell, a lot of Kenyans will go to hell. Why? Because nobody wants to state their true value. Somebody tells you, I've got 2 cars. That is my property. And yet you know that this guy owns fleets of matatus. But somebody tells you, I'm worth 120 million or 150 million or 100 million. And you know this guy has got land in Nyari. This guy got land in Karen. And the house that was bought on a market price value of 200 million. And this person is actually seeking for a position in this country. And yet the same government, the same president that these people are serving is telling Kenyans that we are going to tax wealth. Which wealth are you going to tax when people are hiding their wealth? Right. I think we need, first of all, to speak the truth about what is our true value. I do not want to actually chastise the cabinet secretaries because that is their wealth, and it is important that we get wealthy. I will appreciate if everybody says I'm worth 1 billion shillings. This is good, and I think that's what the president wants to do, to build wealth for everybody. But it is wrong for us to hide our wealth. If at the leadership position that is being done, I'll tell you, our tax reform cannot work if people still want to hide. There is a reason why they are hiding. They are hiding because they want to avoid tax. So we can already see the seeming thing that is coming out. Everybody is trying to run away from declaring their wealth. And that is where the problem starts from. Let us declare our wealth and tax this wealth. When we tax this wealth, we're going to be wealthy as a country.
Right, and just to finalize on this whole tax issue before we get into the whole Meru County situation and basically the whole devolution, Mheshimiwa, and also as he was talking about leaders who are vying, rather seeking positions. You personally, seeking the parliamentary into the basically the permanent secretary, and and as he says, telling people their net worth and all that. But then our tax tax GDP indicator has been decreasing. 2016 it was about I think 18%. Right now it stands about 14%. Then on the other hand, President Ruto has his ambitious tax reforms, agendas. Are we on the right track? Because the whole tax-to-tax GDP is, it's basically shows that economic growth isn't doing well. But are we on the right track?
Yeah, thank you very much. The issue is about the statistics you have at the National Treasury. We made a very serious misnomer by combining the National Treasury with the Ministry of Finance and Planning. Because the National Treasury should have been like the Chancellor of the Exchequer in the UK. And Kenya's descendants are becoming leaders of superpowers like Rishi Sunak and Barack Obama.
Yes.
If you look at OECD countries, 40% of their GDP accrues in terms of tax. And actually, we were for a long time doing at 15%. Our economic growth in terms of the size of the GDP, nominal GDP, I humbly submit it's about 9.8 trillion, slightly less than $100 billion. But then the outgoing regime has pumped itself up by saying we are 13 trillion. I saw Kuriatani saying that the economy has grown by 7.5%, over projection and lying, open lying to people. But then what is it that needs to be done? It means that a lot of the enterprises are within the informal economy. Is it a crime? No. Actually, 86% of jobs are created by the informal economy, about 16 million, informal, jobs. So what do? You decriminalize enterprise so that then people come into the fold. Because if you look at the formal economy where, SMEs are making a net income of about 50,000 per employee per month, they are more structured, and you can actually tell that if you are more mechanized, if you are more formal, you produce more. It's very simple, If you go to plow the land with your hoe, it's different from if you are to use a tractor. You have more yields if you use a tractor.
Indeed.
So that's where we want to move as a country, going forward. And then also trying to, because we have come from a regime where if you are trying to make it big, then you are hit, and you can have the example of Keroche, Humphrey Kariuki, and what have you. In the last 10 or so years, we don't have a multinational level kind of business growing out of our economy. The expansionist nature of reaching out to the 170 million people within the EAC and then after the whole of Africa is exactly that, because our market is very small. We're talking about 50 million people. You cannot do as much, because, and Kenya is the biggest economy, right now. But of course, Tanzania is coming up very quickly. You can see the economy is concomitant with the size of the population. They have grown for the last 10 years at 37%. And the difference between us and them is about 4 billion. So what I'm trying to say is also reaching out to new markets. Then, of course, the issue of saving, also. Because why saving? First, because it builds on local, domestic, funds, hedge funds, pension funds, so that you can borrow from and reinvest into huge infrastructural projects that, of course, open up markets. But leveraging also on fintech and technology. And the president has come up very clearly by saying, you don't need power and resources. You need technology. So that if, for example, all of us here have a PIN at the age of 18, even if you're not employed, people are transacting business. And that money is taxed. Every M-Pesa transaction you do is taxed. So it is part of what Dan is saying, that you have to also capture all the VATs that are not being remitted.
Okay.
And then also another aspect, I think, Titus, you were talking about it. The wealth that is abroad, according to International Crisis Group 2016 statistics, it was actually worth 14.7 trillion. Now, how do you then agree with those people? They repatriate that wealth made from Kenya, and then you kind of give them concessions. That's where PPPs are coming, because there's a lot of money that can be repatriated back. Remember, even the Unclaimed Assets Authority has got about 55 billion, equivalent to all of the debt by public universities. So if that money is not claimed, they can as well go and do away with that debt. So what am I trying to say? There are many measures, some that may be made public, some that may not be made public, that can still help to spur the economy and offset the development demand of government in the long term and medium term. But at the same time, we need to be very careful on how we are borrowing. This tax base, if increased, will help people because the Mamambogas are paying. But you and I are the ones who can, employ a tax consultant, an accountant who helps you to hide your taxes. I mean, it's done very well. So that's why when the president was meeting the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, he was very categorical: pay your taxes.
And briefly on that also, yeah. So you feel like the taxman is up to the task on the whole 3 trillion target?
I think 5 years. The taxman has tried, because obviously getting 2.1 trillion, for me, for a long time, I've been the vice chairman of Finance and Budget in the Senate and a ranking member in the National Assembly Budget Committee for three good years. We were Honorable Gakuya in the 11th Parliament. So I know we've moved from 1.4 to 1.67, so now 2.1 is okay. But is it commensurate to the growth of the economy? As you are the one who's asked that question. If you are doing at 18%, now we've dropped to 14%, is the economy growing faster than how much tax we are? So people are becoming sophisticated in the ways in which they are hiding tax. So the president has issued a directive. If you don't change, then there must be radical surgery. Okay, let's talk about the Meru issue briefly, because we are actually out of time. Should be having the final remarks and all that. But then tomorrow, Governor Kawira Mwangaza is expected to meet with the members of the county assembly to basically discuss whole bone of contention, the ward fund. Honorable Gakuya, I mean, being in Nairobi, basically Nairobi County, the whole devolution, 10 years so far, 9 or 10 years, give or take. Where are we going wrong, basically, in the whole devolution?
In fact, I would say that, in fact, the system we have is the best. And those who, the authors of our constitutions, actually, their aim is to bring service closer to the people. That's why wards are very important, and that's why we have MCAs down there. And therefore, I don't think it is important, because what takes us ill or which makes us fail is that we have what we call political vendetta. The governors want to work and service those MCAs who listen to them and who they can pocket for their own interest. And Signed, other areas that actually you find you are getting liberal MCs. But why do you want to staff? Why do you want to sacrifice people who voted for you entirely because of a single individual who is a member of that county? It is unfair. And therefore, we need what we call a clear distributed resources to every Kenyan. And that's why we must forget after election that the president is elected by the Kenya Kwanza, because he has a duty to serve every single Kenya, whether that someone was from...
Elected by Kenyans or Kenya Kwanza?
Of course. Kenya Kwanza was a vehicle to take him to the office. But the service is the whole holistic nation without favor. And this one is the only way that we can cure a problem. We have a teething problem in our devolution, and realize that we are electing small gods who are known by the name governors. Governors must realize, in fact, there is no way they can work without check and balance.
Now that I want to bring in Honorable Ruto on this. As pioneer, as all right, I'm being told that we do have to take a short break. But then after the short break, you are a pioneer, Deputy Governor, West Pokot. It was basically a baby, the whole devolution aspect of it. And so the whole checks and balances, the relationship between the executive and the assembly. We'll be talking about that also, and how to remedy all this after this short break. Stay with us right here.
You
are watching TV 47. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa. TV 47. The home of untold stories.
Honorable Lute, as pioneer deputy governor, you saw it all, basically. Because, you know, members of the county assembly, you as deputy governors, for the first time, you're trying this out. Tell us, basically, how was it then? And now looking back, how should we better this situation?
Well, like Honorable Gakuya said, it is important to note that this is the best constitution that we've got. And the drafters of this constitution thought through everything. Probably what we can actually say is the problem for the last 9 years is the fact that probably we are not walking the constitution. We are doing our own things because we want to have self-gratification. We want to assume that we are small goals, like so to say, like he said. I think the constitution just needs to be followed as it is. And for purposes of records, it is important that counties are starting the way they are starting. I do not want to blame Meru Assembly or Meru Governor for what has happened. I think we are all new. The governor is new, and the governor is coming.
Basically, this is a teething problem.
It's a teething problem, yeah. We saw that in Makueni, in
Nairobi also.
We saw that more in Makueni. The reason why I want to mention Makueni is it reached the point where the governor himself, Professor Kibwana, invoked Section 192 of the Constitution and actually petitioned the president to dissolve the county government. And when the MCA realizes that the county government was going to be dissolved and even them, they are going to lose their seat, they actually then came down and sat together. And when they sat together, they were able to perform. And I'll tell you, in the last regime, in the last period that has passed, Makueni county government was rated as one of the best performing government. Why? Because they were forced by circumstances, the governor and the MCS, to sit and work the constitution. Probably what we are seeing in Meru and what we are seeing in many other county governments is that the power play between the governor and the MCS. And once they realize that they need to come together for the common good, then they will go the Makueni way. So for me, I think Governor Kawira Mwangaza is actually now meeting the MCS, I think, for the first time, practically knowing very well that these people have got power as well on her, and so that they can be able to discuss. I'll tell you, if they actually discuss, we might see Meru County government as one of the best performing counties in the years to come. So I will ask everybody to know that unless we walk this constitution, we will always have a problem. So the constitution is good. It is the work of the constitution that always have a problem.
Right. Honorable Maina, is this the whole, do the MCAs and the government, do they understand the roles? Does everyone understand the roles?
Let me first applaud Governor Kawira because she has woken up from her slumber and the bravado of being elected governor. And I want to,
she wake up?
At the point where she decided she will meet the MCAs and they have a round table. And I want to refer them to the County Government Act. As it says, the county government has two arms of government, the executive and the county assembly. Two arms of government.
Yeah.
So any governor who thinks that they can run the show on their own, they had better wake up and smell the coffee. They are in for a rude shock. Number two.
Briefly, can
Governor Kawira is not the first one to find herself in this position.
Yeah.
The late Governor Ruto Gachagua did find himself in the same position in 2013 in Nyeri. And Governor Kivuda Kibwana. She has a choice. She can travel the route of Governor Kibwana, where you want to grandstand and say, now, let's risk it all, let's go back to the people.
Right.
The other alternative is to strike the conciliatory tone, which, by the way, I think Governor Sakaja has done quite well in Nairobi. He's in the same situation, but so far, he seems to be progressing well.
Right.
He's all he can decide to fight the MCAs. The late Governor Derito Gachagua tried it, including physically fighting the MCAs in Nyeri. At the end of the day, Meru people and the Meru County is going to be the net losers in this confrontation. Nobody else can win. And I will tell them for free that if both governor and the MCAs, if they continue on this path, 5 years down the line, very few of them will survive the electorate.
Honorable Maura, tomorrow the governor will be meeting the MCAs. Just a summary, we definitely can't obviously preempt how tomorrow will shape up, but then what should we be expecting from both sides?
I think Governor Kawira should have a cup of tea with, or coffee for that matter, with Anne Waiguru, because she had similar problems, but she has managed to be re-elected.
But then they definitely had it to think early this week or late last week.
Yeah, maybe I was not privy to that, but if they did, maybe that's the turnaround that has happened, because you can make mistakes and you chest thump and you are high-handed and you are up there. You have to come down to the level of the people, and I hope also the Meru MCAs will also hearken to her pleas. I think she started on the wrong footing, because there was a time we were in Meru with the president and she never showed up for the function. I mean, you don't make such kind of political mistakes also. Also it's good to keep away family from politics, because then when family starts being attacked, it's not very funny. And I think, yes, the husband was good in playing the guitar on the campaign trail, but it's time that he plays a more peripheral role so that then they are able to move forward. But otherwise, I think the way she was able to be elected as the first woman governor against very strong candidates, Kiraitu Murungi, the immediate former governor, and our candidate, the now Agriculture Minister, Mithika Linturi, and my colleague in the Senate in the 12th Parliament, that shows that she's in touch with the people. And now that these mistakes have happened very early in her administration, I believe it can be corrected. I 100% support the World Development Fund for MCAs, because it's a very difficult job. I mean, the legislators at that level, even at the national level, require such a kitty, because that's the nature of our democracy. We are not like Westminster, where you can just, go and legislate. I don't think anybody is elected to go and make laws in Parliament, by the way, on a serious note. That is more of a superficial one. Otherwise, some of us were not one of the best debaters in Parliament. So you have to accede to that demand, because people have issues, and leaders are elected to be problem solvers. So I think let them heal these rifts, and they move forward together, so for the benefit of the people of Meru County.
Right, before we get your last remarks, Honorable Lotte, you was the CEO in the National Government Affirmative Fund. You have the whole background on Matters Fund. I want to get your comment on the whole bone of contention of the Ward Fund, basically, before as we get the closing remarks.
Well, I think the Ward Fund is something that is desirable, and actually we can see that. The Kenya Parliament, for example, never operated the way they are operating now before the introduction of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. And immediately the CDF was introduced, we can see more robust development by the members of Parliament. So for me, I think these fundings are very good. And so the Ward Fund, as much as it's not in the Constitution, is a desirable fund for all the members of the Assembly. Just like you said, it's not just about us to go and legislate, it's about us developing our people. The people will not ask you how many legislation you brought before the House in the County Assembly, but they ask you what you develop for them. So for me, having managed the fund, I think the funds are useful and the funds are actually going to transform this country.
Right. Closing remarks. I think we can start with Honorable Maina as we get the whole recycle of it.
Yes, on the Ward Fund, okay. Everybody in this country must understand that all these funds operate within the narrow confines of the Public Finance Management Act. That is key for everybody. So the funds is not something that you have in your wallet and you can dish left, right, and center. That is key for everybody. That we have the overarching registration that does limit what can and cannot be done within the fund. I think lastly is that I'll need to ask Kenyans, I'll have to ask Kenyans again, that the same optimism with which they elected the Kenya Kwanza and President William Ruto should remain. We are confident that Ruto's hands are a safe pair of hands, I'm urging Kenyans that we keep our faith, keep our trust, and he has steady hands. The sheep of this country is in very able hands. He's a hard worker. He has a glass for details, an amazing glass for details. And he is quite focused on where we are and where we need to have. Let's support him.
All right. Honorable Gakuya, even as you also make the whole experience in the City Hall, the Ward Fund and your closing remarks.
During our tenure, because we were in the defunct local authority, we had money, we had funds that were known as RATIF. And that money was going cross-board. No single member of that county, then who were known as councillor, could miss that particular fund. Today, I think it is also important to consider that all number of wards represented in a county assembly, as a governor, you have a duty to spur development across board. There is no single ward should suffer because every single ward is represented by you as a governor and that MC. Whether there is a battle within or not, people must not suffer because of differences between an MCA and the governor. And therefore, it's a duty of that governor to make sure that development spurs to that particular ward, whether there is any bitterness or not. Then we must also understand and embrace elements of working together as a team. And there's no way any single governor will succeed because all what he needs to be approved has to go to that chamber. And that chamber has, even if it's not conducive, and if you have no conducive relationship, then you'll be finding yourself in awkward situation where all your beefs will be getting root shock. And therefore, that working spirit of togetherness is of importance. Those are guys entitled by the Constitution to be your checks and balances to check you. Then you must give them room to check you.
Right. Your closing remarks?
I would just urge Kenyans to support Kenya Kwanza government, support William Ruto. Let us all not fear that actually Ruto is coming up with pronunciation of tax, expanding tax base. Let us not fear paying tax. If we really want to have a Kenya with a robust kind of development, it's only out of our pocket. Let us not expect that we are waiting for foreigners to come and build our country.
All right, thank you very much. Honorable Mora, your closing remarks.
Yeah, I think the former local governments were collecting more money than all of the 47 counties combined. They are only able to collect about 40%. So this is an indictment on the new governors. Much as they have huge bills, pending bills, that they need to increase their outsourced revenue and ensure that the income streams, boost what is shared at the national revenue. But generally, to say that I am very, very, very proud to be a Kenyan because people have moved on. Everybody is struggling with their hustles, and we are all optimistic, and we thank God for the rain.
All right, thank you. Honorable Lute, even as as West Pokot County waits for the funds from the National Treasury, and
good. I think there was a survey about the world optimism, and I think Kenya actually scored very high in one of the surveys that was done recently of being very optimistic people. I ask Kenyans that we become very optimistic in what we are doing, despite the situation that we are going through, the anger, and be optimistic about our government. I know we elected, this government has been elected. For those that are in the minority and for those that are in majority, we need to support this government that is in place because at the end of it, all they're supposed to serve all Kenyans. The last thing that I'll say to Kenyans is let us be empathic to those that are actually suffering. There are many Kenyans that are dying because of anger. There are people who do not know what they're going to eat today. They have not even taken breakfast this morning. For you that have got, please can you be able to channel your funding to those that you can, directly or through your churches or through your mosques or whatever. There is a person, Ruben Kigame, who I've seen going around trying to collect food items for people that are suffering. And I think we can all support that cause. Let us be optimistic. Let us go on very well and support this government. We are not supposed to challenge this government on anything because we are in the opposition or in the minority. We are supposed to support it because at the end of it all, it is our government. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North. Honorable Duncan Maina, Member of Parliament, Nyeri Town. Honorable Titus Lete, Member of Parliament for Kacheliba. And Honorable Isaac Mora, former nominated Senator, thank you, gentlemen, once again for braving the chilly morning, by the way, to be in this studio. And thank you also, dear viewer, for staying with us for the past, I think, 2 hours or so, and actually having this conversation and all your comments right here and your feedback. Thank you.